What's going on, guys? It's Corbin Stuckey. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day. Today, we're going to be talking about the most anticipated animated film of the year, and one of my most anticipated films, given that this is a franchise that I have grown up with throughout my entire life, and that is Toy Story 5. Toy Story 5 revolves around our favorite toy still residing in Bonnie's room, and after her parents recognize that she's having a hard time making friends, they decide to buy her a lily pad tablet so she can socialize with her friends through an online basis. And as the toys start to recognize that this is an epidemic happening throughout the neighborhood and they could potentially lose Bonnie through this device, they decide to formulate a plan so Bonnie can make friends organically so she doesn't have to rely so heavily on the tablet. So I'm going to talk about my experience with Toy Story before I get into this fifth movie, but I love Toy Story. I am pretty sure that Toy Story was probably like my first favorite movie. I have watched this film since I was just alive. My parents had a VHS very similar to this one, and I would just watch that movie nonstop. I loved the first movie, went to the movies for the second one. My parents got me the toys for Christmas, birthday, etc. This is a franchise that is so dear to my heart. And I watched Toy Story 3 with my grandmother when I was 15 with, at the time, my 6-year-old cousin. So it was just like this magical experience where it was like, okay, I'm like older now, but I'm still able to like really enjoy Toy Story from like an adult perspective, that emotional perspective. And I'm sharing it with my 6-year-old cousin who is watching this as a child. So it was just a very magical experience. The Toy Story franchise has always been the argument for the longest time that I've had with everyone who has defended kids films that just aren't that good. I know everyone really likes the Super Mario Brothers movies. Those are beautiful films. I really like how they pay homage to the video games, but that's about it. There's not really a whole lot of depth to those films, and everyone is just always like, it's a kids movie, whatever. We came back home from watching Super Mario Galaxy and we were just like, it's fine. It was about the same as the first one. Out of randomness, me and Lisa decided to watch like the Toy Story shorts that were available on Disney Plus. We were about to go to bed and we just wanted to watch something like that wasn't 2 hours long, and we just recognized like what those shorts were able to do in such a minimum amount of time, from like 10 to 20 minutes, where an hour and a half movie couldn't do. Even if you're like not looking for like a lot of depth in like a kids film, you can still look for like really creative writing. The idea when you're watching a Toy Story short film like Small Fry and you have all these Happy Meal toys in a circle because they're at like this AA meeting or a support group kind of thing, that's really funny. So even if like you're not getting like an emotional response from like something like that throughout that minimum amount of time, you can still have like really creative and witty writing. And I think a lot of animated films nowadays are really lacking that, and Toy Story has always delivered with that kind of humor, even within its short films. And when it comes to the first feature film, Toy Story, I just really enjoyed as a kid, obviously. Like, yeah, it's great. But watching it as an adult, I can watch it as an adult. There is a very endearing message in that first film where our main character, Woody, has to recognize that not everything is about him. And that even though he claims that he is there to make Andy happy, it's really all about him. And then when Buzz comes into the picture and he recognizes, oh, I have to share this duty of making Andy happy, it's a very mature plot. And that's one of the reasons why I love the first Toy Story film, is not only is it just an enjoyable film, but this mature plot of the idea of being able to share and being able to coincide with one another. Toy Story is a phenomenal animated film. And the sequels that are after that, even the sequels that are after the third one, you are able to gain something from these movies. There's always a takeaway where kids and even adults can apply into their own lives. That is the specialty of the Toy Story franchise. And when I saw that third film in the theaters with my grandma and cousin, I thought it was the perfect ending. I was incredibly sad, but I was like, nope, this is like where it's got to end, because this is just such a perfect trilogy now. Then they decided, oh, hey, we're going to do Toy Story 4 in 2019. And I was excited. I was like, okay, we're going to be exploring new territory within this franchise. Let's do it. Toy Story 4, my honest opinion about that film is it's a good film. I think it has a very sincere message, but it feels very standalone from this amazing trilogy that ended in 2010. And I saw what the creators were trying to do. They were like, okay, like we have provided this solution for Woody. He's got a new kid in Toy Story 3, but realistically, this is a temporary solution, and there's not really a lot of closure for the character because this is just going to be a cycle that he's going to be going through again and again and again when he gets a new kid and he feels unfulfilled. Oh, now he has a new kid. So I like this message in Toy Story 4 where Woody has to recognize his self-fulfillment isn't reliant on being with a kid, and that his inner happiness can come from other things like being with Bo Peep or helping other toys find owners. So I really liked the message. It's good as a standalone plot. I think it's just because the first 3 Toy Story films, it's just such a perfect trilogy, and you have this other film that's more so like, wait a second, we have to establish like what's going on in Woody's mentality. And I think that's another thing too, is that Toy Story 4 feels more like a Woody film. And we're supposed to accept this fact that like Woody is saying goodbye to all the toys, but there's not really a whole lot of closure because all of the toys are barely in Toy Story 4. It's realistically a Woody story with Bo Peep. Buzz is in there minimally, and it's a very weird subplot where Buzz is trying to find like his inner voice, his conscience, and it's just kind of like very small compared to what's going on with everything around him. And there's not really any recognition of Bonnie losing Woody. She just kind of forgets about Woody. And she made that promise to Andy at the end of the 3rd film, like, I'm going to take care of Woody, and whoop, Woody's gone. And again, I appreciate this plot. I understand what they were trying to acknowledge, and like, oh, Woody is just never going to be fulfilled unless he recognizes he can be on his own outside of catering to a kid. But it felt like in order to do that, you really had to ignore the perfect ending of Toy Story 3. And I think it's just kind of sad. So now we're in 2026 and we're talking about Toy Story 5. And what did I think of this film? I think I like this film a lot more than the 4th film. I think there's a lot more going on in terms of the dynamics of the characters, specifically with Woody and Buzz. I love the idea of Jessie feeling so lost with what to do because this tablet is in Bonnie's room and she feels the need to call Woody. I love how the toys are happy to see him and Buzz acknowledges that it's been a long time. It feels like, it feels eventful, where Toy Story 4 sometimes felt kind of like a throwaway film in some capacity, besides the Bo Peep part. It feels like, oh, this is like something's happening here, and it feels special in a way. It feels like a reunion. And speaking of focusing on more of the other toys within Bonnie's room, as Woody was a focus of Toy Story 4, this film is much more a focus on Jessie, which I really appreciated. Because if you've watched clearly the 2nd film where she was introduced, and even the short films that you can watch on Disney+, Jessie has been battling demons for a very long time with this idea of abandonment. And this film really kind of showcases like, hey, what if you have something that comes in between her and Bonnie, which is this tablet? It makes sense as to why Jessie would be the one to be harshly affected by this, because she doesn't want another Emily situation where her owner just forgets about her. And just this PTSD of the idea of not being wanted. I think it was a really good subplot to explore, and specifically with this modern day tale of technology and how that is consuming kids, and kids are just not playing with toys anymore. In terms of the animation is great. I've been seeing a lot of trailers for this film, and I've been trying to pinpoint what exactly it is, because there's something that feels different from like even the 4th film, even though that came out like 7 years ago. And we watched that the night before just to kind of like be caught up with like Toy Story and to be ready for this 5th film. And that 4th film still holds up so well in terms of animation, but there's something about this 5th film that really stands out. And I think I know what it is. This film is sharp. Like, it is so detailed and crisp. And when you have that, there is a small lack of motion blur within like the character movements and stuff. And I just felt like each frame was rendered so well to the point where I felt like if I was at home and I maybe paused this film, it would be crystal clear. This is a really good looking movie. And I'm really happy to acknowledge that, because now that we're in the age of AI, where a lot of people are making their own Pixar vertical reels at home, I was kind of wondering, like, is there gonna come a point where like just watching a Pixar film is not gonna feel special anymore? But given how I'm watching this film, and I'm just like amazed with how everything looks picture clear, but I have no doubts in that Pixar is going to find ways in order to push this style. And also, we have come such a long ways. When we have Sid's dog in the first one, and we have Buster, Andy's dog in Toy Story 2. Looking back at those now, rewatching those films, they're incredibly dated. But we have clearly reached a point where like they're doing super well with like human characters. Like we see Bonnie, we also see her parents, and they've also done a beautiful job with animals in this film. Without going into spoilers, there is a subplot that involves the toys coming to a ranch, and there's a farm there, and they come face to face with horses. And it's like, oh my God, this is like so beautiful. Like these majestic creatures. And there's also parts where some of the characters are out in the woods and they come across animals equivalent to that of Bambi. There's a deer and bunnies. And it's just like, this is so beautiful. We've come so far from Buster from Toy Story 2. I also love what they did when Bonnie is having playtime, where when she is playing with the toys and to showcase her imagination, they do this water palette style to showcase the toys being characters within Bonnie's imagination. I thought that was very creative. Also, I really enjoyed Conan O'Brien, who plays a potty trainer toy. There's a lot of jokes that come from this character that are going to go over a lot of kids' heads, but I'm sure they will appreciate when they watch this film at an older age. There is one subplot that I'm kind of neutral about. I really enjoyed this because it was just like really fun and humorous. There is a subplot that involves these technologically advanced Buzz Lightyears, and they're clearly a nod to the modern day robotic Robosyn Buzz Lightyears, which I would really like to have. I'm sorry, Buzz, but yeah, I want a Robosyn Buzz Lightyear. They are these toys that are apparently just lost in shipment, and there's like hundreds of them, and they're traveling throughout the land. They're going through like the woods, and they find themselves in the city, and they're trying to find Star Command, and it leads them to our heroes who are dealing with this predicament of like this tablet. And the way that they come across like Woody and Buzz, it's very random. There's never a point where like Woody and Buzz are like, wait, who are you guys? Like, where did you come from? There's never like any questioning of like, why are there so many of you? What are you doing here? Like, how did you get here? There's never like really any acknowledgement of that. Woody and Buzz are just kind of like, okay, I guess they're just here. It feels very random and very forced, but I really liked them in this movie. I think it provided a lot of comedy, even though their presence within the story is completely random. I thought they were cool. In terms of if this movie is a cash grab or if it's actually an attempt to make a good quality Toy Story film, I think this is an attempt at making something meaningful. This is a very sincere film. And the idea of kids just being so focused on technology and iPads and tablets. I was watching this film, I was like, you know what? This is kind of a plot that I would see in maybe like a potential Inside Out sequel. This idea of kids feeling alienated and not being able to talk to other kids, because if you have toys, you're going to get made fun of, and you're going to be made fun of online. And it actually deals with cyberbullying in a way. This is actually the first ever PG Toy Story film, I believe. The other Toy Story films have been rated G, and that's very surprising because there are some very adult jokes in those films. And this is the first one that has been rated PG, and I kind of understand for the most part, because I feel like if you're taking your kids to see this film and there's this talk about like technology and iPads, and maybe you go home with your child and they state like, hey, I think I want an iPad or something like that. You kind of have to have that parental guidance of sitting down with them and stating like, hey, like, I don't think you're really old enough for this yet, or having the conversation of like, hey, this is why I don't think you should have this. So I think that's why I feel the film is PG, because it talks about a lot of real world problems that are clearly going on right now. And the fact that the film decided to go in that direction of like, hey, we're going to be talking about cyberbullying, I thought was a very mature thing to do. And clearly it's like, what do you do after a perfect trilogy like Toy Story? And then you had this fourth film that was a little bit questionable. What do you do after that? And you also had Lightyear, which was a spin-off of Buzz Lightyear, which I really wish I would have loved. The concept is perfect, but I just felt like it should have been more. What do you do? And the idea of them talking about the effects of technology on children is the obvious thing. The one thing I will say is that this film doesn't really feel like it has finality. Like, I'm watching this film and there's not a part of me that thinks, oh, this could be the last Toy Story. This feels like another segment. This feels like another installment in the Toy Story franchise. And I guess I just really appreciated the finality of Toy Story 3. I thought it was just so perfect, because I think with Toy Story, it's just such a special movie series to me, where I hope it just doesn't go down the drain because Disney is so obsessed with making money. I just hope that there's never a terrible Toy Story film. And right now we're kind of like in this series of like, hey, these are really good films, but they just don't merit that third film. And I think that's just what I'm scared of. I'm scared that we are going to reach a point where there's going to be a bad Toy Story film where it tarnishes these characters that we have known since 1995. I really don't want that. And what I'm trying to say here is I can foresee them making a Toy Story 6. Will I be there? Absolutely. But I want this next film to be something special. I don't want it just to be like, hey, what can we do next in order to make another Toy Story film to have the audience at the movie theaters? I get that's the mentality of Hollywood and trying to gain money. I understand. We've already established that we love these characters. These characters have been around for 31 years. Of course we're going to be at the movie theaters to give you our money. I want that same euphoria that I got from Toy Story 3, and I don't know if just making it the final film is the way to go, but just have something that'll tug at our hearts. But overall, guys, this film is really good. I think it has a really good message in terms of like how to make friends in real life. Again, a Toy Story film is supposed to have a mature takeaway of how to live life and be good to one another. And I think this film does that to a good degree. And even though this is not as good as Toy Story 3, this is an answer to a problem that I've been having for a long time in terms of kids films. Is kids films are not coming off as thoughtful anymore. They're just there to be colorful and spontaneous and fast and just for kids to look at the screen. Whereas Toy Story 5 is a modern day example of what you can do within a kids film and have an emotional takeaway, this thing that you can apply to life, not only as a kid, but as an adult watching the film as well. And in terms of Toy Story 5 achieving that, I think it did a really good job. So yeah, guys, that was my review to Toy Story 5. Comment down below what you thought of the movie. If you've seen it yet, like this video, share it. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate the support. And yeah, looking forward to talking about more films in the coming months. I am Corbin Stuckey, and thank you for watching.